The town hall of Sloane's Crossing smelled of sweat dust and something darker. Fear, perhaps. Or guilt. The kind that settled into wood grain and never quite left. 50 people packed into a space meant for 30. They lined the walls, crowded the doorway, pressed shoulder to shoulder in wooden chairs that creaked under shifting weight. The afternoon sun cut through high windows in sharp accusatory beams. Dust motes swirled in the light like tiny witnesses, silent and eternal. At the front of the room, behind a scarred oak table that had seen 100 disputes over cattle land and water rights, sat Judge Harlan Cole. 60 years old face, red from the heat and something harder to name. His gavel rested beside his hand, ready, always ready. And before him stood Anna Mankiller, 24 years old, Apache on her mother's side, Irish on her father's, skin the color of New Mexico earth after rain, hair black as a starless night pulled back in a single braid that fell past her shoulders. Her dress was simple cotton, the color of creek stones still damp with mud from the knees down, not from walking through puddles, from kneeling in them, working in them. 2 men flanked her, hands hovering near her elbows, not touching, not yet. But the threat was clear. She was not bound, but she was not free. Her hands hung at her sides, steady, calloused from work that most women in Sloane's Crossing would never touch. Her face held an expression that unnerved the crowd more than tears would have. Calm. Absolutely terrifyingly calm. Judge Cole cleared his throat. The sound cut through the murmur of voices like a knife through cheesecloth. "Miss Mankiller," he began, voice carrying the weight of practiced authority, "you stand accused of willful destruction of the Sloane family dam. 3 men died when that dam broke. 200 acres flooded, livestock drowned, crops destroyed. You were the only person at the dam when it collapsed." He paused, letting the words settle like stones into still water. "What do you have to say in your defense?" The room held its breath. Anna did not lower her eyes, did not shift her weight, did not offer the deference that Judge Cole clearly expected. Instead, she spoke in a voice that carried to the back of the room without rising. Clear, measured. Each word chosen with the precision of an engineer calculating water pressure. "I did not destroy the dam. I attempted to repair it. If this court truly seeks to know who is responsible for its collapse, look to those who profited when the water flowed toward their land instead of where it belonged." The room erupted, voices overlapping, chairs scraping. Someone shouted from the back. Judge Cole's gavel came down 3 times before order reasserted itself, fragile as spun glass. From the 3rd row a young man stood. Barrett Sloane, 26, with his father's height and his mother's fair coloring. Rage painted his face in shades of red that had nothing to do with the heat. "My father died in that flood." His voice cracked on the word father. "He was trying to save the livestock when the water came, and the only person near the dam, the only person who had any reason to be there, was you." Anna turned to face him. The movement was slow, deliberate. When their eyes met, Barrett flinched, not from fear, from something in her gaze that felt like recognition, like she knew him better than he knew himself. "I was there," she said, "because I knew it was going to fail. I warned your father 3 weeks before the collapse, showed him the stress fractures in the foundation, explained that building on clay soil instead of bedrock was suicide once the monsoon rains came." Her voice never rose, never wavered. "He ordered me off his property, told me that no daughter of a dead Indian had the right to tell a white man about engineering. Now he's dead. And you blame me because the alternative is admitting he was warned and chose pride over sense." The silence that followed was absolute, the kind that presses on eardrums and makes the heart beat too loud in the chest. Judge Cole's face had gone from red to purple. "Miss Mankiller, you are not a trained engineer. You have no credentials, no formal education in structural design or hydrology. How dare you presume to know more than men who have worked this land for generations?" Anna's jaw tightened, the first crack in her composure, not from anger, from exhaustion, from having this same argument with this same kind of man too many times to count. "My father was Owen Mankiller. He designed and built the irrigation systems for 6 ranches in this valley. He was the finest water engineer west of the Rio Grande. He taught me to read water pressure, soil composition, and structural integrity from the time I was 7 years old. I know more about water than most men in this room will learn in a lifetime." A woman stood up, Catherine Vance, 55, widow of Harold Vance, owner of the second largest ranch in the territory. She wore black as she had every day for the past 3 years since her husband's death. Her face was carved from granite, beautiful and cold. Owen Mankiller was indeed skilled, Mrs. Vance said, voice carrying the crisp diction of Eastern education. But that was a decade ago. This girl, she gestured toward Anna with one gloved hand, appears at the Sloan Dam on the very night it collapses. She is found standing in the wreckage at dawn, covered in mud, claiming she was trying to help. It is, at best, suspicious. At worst, deliberate sabotage. Anna's eyes found Mrs. Vance across the crowd, held there. "Or," Anna said quietly, "I was right. And this town cannot accept that a woman with Apache blood knew what your engineers missed, what your inspectors ignored, what your pride refused to see." Judge Cole's gavel came down once, hard. "This court finds no direct evidence of criminal destruction. However," he paused, eyes sweeping the room, reading the crowd like a practiced politician, "given the reasonable doubt surrounding your presence and the loss of life involved, Anna Mankiller is hereby banned permanently from Sloan's Crossing and all lands with water rights connected to the Sloan Dam system." Anna's face did not change, not a flicker, not a breath. "Furthermore," Judge Cole continued, "you are ordered to leave this township within 24 hours. Should you return, you will be arrested for trespassing and held for trial on the original charges." He looked at her then, and something in his eyes said this was mercy, that she should be grateful for exile instead of hanging. Anna turned, looked at the faces staring back at her, some angry, some afraid, some triumphant, and a very few ashamed. She spoke once more to the room at large. "You are exiling me for speaking truth. But truth does not vanish simply because you refuse to look at it. The water knows, the land knows, and eventually you will know too." She walked toward the door. The crowd parted, not willingly, but they parted. Only one person met her eyes as she passed, Barrett Sloan, and in his face for just a moment she saw something that looked like doubt. The door closed behind her. The sound echoed in the sudden silence like the closing of a tomb. On the same afternoon, 20 miles northeast, Thomas Mercer stood beside a bed that still smelled of lavender and sickness. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the brutal New Mexico sun, shadows pooled in the corners like standing water, dark and still. The air was close heavy with the weight of things left unsaid and now unsayable forever. Eliza Mercer lay on the bed, hands folded across her chest. Someone, probably Dr. Cross, had already arranged her, made her presentable, closed her eyes, smoothed her hair, tried to make death look like sleep. It did not work. Death never looked like sleep, no matter how hard the living pretended. Tom stood motionless, 32 years old, tall and broad-shouldered from years of ranch work. His face was weathered lines carved deep around his eyes from squinting into sun and wind. His hands, hanging at his sides, were large and scarred. Capable hands, hands that had built fences, delivered calves, mended wagon wheels, hands that had not been here when they were needed most. Dr. Samuel Cross stood near the window, black medical bag in hand. 55, gray-haired, with the soft build of a man who worked with his mind more than his body. His face held the carefully neutral expression doctors learned early. Compassion without attachment. Sympathy without responsibility. "Tom," he said softly, "she's gone. I'm sorry. There was nothing more anyone could have done." Tom did not respond. Did not look away from his wife's face, searching for something, forgiveness perhaps, or accusation. He found neither, just absence. The terrible, final absence of a person who had been and now was not. Dr. Cross shifted his weight, uncomfortable in the silence. The fever was too high, her lungs filled with fluid. Even if you had been here, the outcome would have been the same. Would it? Tom's voice came out rough like boots on gravel. Yes, these things happen. Pneumonia in winter takes strong men and weak women alike. There is no— Stop. Dr. Cross fell silent. Tom moved for the first time, reached out and touched Eliza's hand. still warm, not yet stiffened, as if she had just left and might at any moment return. In her other hand, pressed between her palm and her chest, was a white handkerchief. Tom's handkerchief, the one he had left on the bedside table when he rode out last night, when he left her alone. The memory came unbidden, sharp as broken glass. 18 hours earlier. Snow falling heavy outside the window, wind howling down from the mountains like something alive and hungry. Eliza on this same bed, fever bright in her eyes, breathing shallow and wet. "Don't go," she had whispered, voice thin as paper. Tom had been pulling on his coat, heavy wool lined with sheepskin. "Morrison's children are stranded at Black Ridge. If someone doesn't go now, they'll freeze before morning." "If you go," Eliza said, each word an effort, "I will die alone." He had stopped. Hand on the door latch. 5 seconds of silence. 10. The weight of her words pressing against his chest like a physical thing. "Ruth Morrison will be here within the hour," he said. "She'll sit with you. I'll be back before dawn." Eliza had not argued, had simply looked at him with eyes that already knew. And he had opened the door and walked into the storm. He saved 3 children that night. Rode through snow so thick he could barely see his horse's ears. Found them huddled in a shepherd's shack, half frozen, crying for their mother. Wrapped them in blankets, loaded them onto his horse, walked beside them through drifts that came up to his waist. Delivered them to Lucas Morrison just as the sky began to lighten. Watched Lucas weep with relief, holding his children like he would never let them go. And then Tom had ridden home, through the aftermath of the storm, through the silence that comes after the wind stops, through the gray dawn light that made the world look washed out and unreal. He had arrived to find Dr. Cross's horse already tied outside, had known before he opened the door what he would find inside. Now standing beside her body, Tom pulled his hand away from hers, looked at the handkerchief she still held. "Tom," Dr. Cross said, voice carefully gentle. "Lucas Morrison came by earlier. He wanted to thank you. Said you saved his family." "Yes." 3 children alive because of you." "Yes." "You made the right choice." Tom turned then, looked at Dr. Cross with eyes that held no light. "Did I?" Dr. Cross opened his mouth, closed it, had no answer that would not sound hollow. He reached into his bag, pulled out a small brown bottle, set it on the bedside table with a soft click that seemed too loud in the quiet room. "Laudanum," the doctor said. "The bottle is empty. I found it in her hand when I arrived." Tom stared at the bottle. Understanding came slowly like ice forming on still water. "She took it herself," Dr. Cross continued, voice dropping lower. "The dose was enough to ensure she would not wake up. Tom, I think your wife did not die of pneumonia. I think she made a choice." The words hung in the air like smoke. Tom picked up the bottle, turned it in his hands. The glass was smooth, clinical, impersonal. The label read in neat print, "For pain. Take 1 spoon as needed." The entire bottle was gone. "There was a letter," Dr. Cross said. "On the dresser. I did not read it, but I think it was meant for you." Tom crossed to the dresser. His legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else, someone who still knew how to walk, to move, to function. The letter was a single sheet of paper folded once, his name on the outside in Eliza's careful handwriting. He unfolded it. The words swam in his vision. He had to read them 3 times before they made sense, before his mind would accept what his eyes saw. "Thomas, I do not blame you for choosing to help. I do not blame you for leaving. I blame only this world that asks you to choose at all. I am too tired to be second, too weary to wait for you to notice that I am drowning. I love you, but I am tired. This is not your fault. This is simply the only choice I have left that is mine alone. Eliza." Tom's hands began to shake. The paper trembled, words blurring. Dr. Cross stepped closer. "Tom, listen to me. If the town knows she took her own life, they will not allow her to be buried in the church cemetery. They will call it sin. They will say, 'Write the truth.'" Tom's voice was flat, dead. "What? On the death certificate. Write that she took laudanum. Write that she chose." Dr. Cross's face tightened. "Tom, think about this. The stigma will—" "I am done with lies. Write the truth." The doctor stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. if that is what you want. It is. Dr. Cross gathered his bag, moved toward the door, paused. Tom, grief does strange things to the mind. If you need to talk, if you need help. I need everyone to leave me alone. The doctor left. Tom stood in the empty room with his dead wife and the letter that explained everything and nothing. And then, moving like a man underwater, he crossed to the fireplace. The embers from this morning's fire still glowed faintly orange and sullen. He looked at the letter in his hand. Read it one more time. Then he placed it on the embers. The paper caught immediately. Flames licked up the edges, turning white to brown to black. Eliza's words curled and darkened and became ash. Tom watched until nothing remained but gray powder. "Forgive me," he whispered to the empty room, to the woman who could no longer hear. "But I cannot let them know. I cannot let them judge you for this." The fire consumed the last fragment. The truth became smoke, and Tom stood alone in the silence, learning what it meant to choose between honesty and protection, between what was right and what was bearable. He chose mercy over truth. He would spend the next 2 years wondering if he had chosen wrong. 2 weeks later, Heart's Hollow looked like a place where hope had died of thirst. The ranch sat in a shallow basin surrounded by red rock cliffs that held heat like an oven holds bread. The main house was timber weathered gray by sun and wind, single-story with a porch that sagged on the eastern corner. The barn stood 50 yards away, paint long since scoured off by sandstorms, boards bleached white as bone. And between them, running through the center of the property like a scar that would not heal, lay Whisper Creek, or what had been Whisper Creek. Now it was a bed of white stones and cracked mud, dry as a dead man's mouth. The channel was deep proof that water had once flowed here with purpose and power. But that was memory now. The present was dust and silence. Tom Mercer knelt beside a pile of wood in the yard. Photographs mostly, some books, a guitar with strings that sang when the wind hit them just right. Eliza's things. He had not been able to keep them in the house. Every object was an accusation. Every photograph a reminder of the woman who had died alone while he saved someone else's children. So he was burning them, not all at once. That felt too violent, too final. Instead, he burned one thing each day, a slow erasure, piece by piece making her disappear from his world the way she had already disappeared from his life. Today it was the guitar. He lifted it, felt its weight. Remembered Eliza sitting on the porch in the evening, fingers moving over the strings, voice soft and clear, singing old songs about love and loss and roads that led away from home. She had loved music. He had loved listening to her. That had been enough, until it was not. He was carrying the guitar toward the fire pit when hoofbeats and the rattle of wagon wheels broke the silence. Tom turned, squinted against the afternoon glare. A wagon approached from the south road. Single horse, old but sturdy. Driving it was Jacob Reed, a man of 50 who ran a freight and passenger service between the scattered ranches and Sloan's Crossing. Gray hair, wind-burned face, the wiry build of someone who had spent his life moving other people's belongings and keeping his mouth shut about what he saw. Tom set the guitar down, waited. The wagon rolled to a stop near the house. Jacob climbed down, moving with the careful slowness of a man whose back complained about every jolt of the road. "Mercer," he said by way of greeting. "Got a delivery for you." Tom frowned. "I did not order anything." "Not that kind of delivery." Jacob gestured to the back of the wagon. Tom walked closer and stopped. A woman sat on the wagon bed, 3 canvas bags arranged beside her. She wore a simple dress the color of storm clouds, a wide-brimmed hat against the sun, and an expression that gave away nothing. Anna Mankiller. Tom recognized her immediately, though they had never spoken. Everyone within 3 counties knew the story. The Apache woman accused of sabotaging the Sloan Dam. The engineer's daughter who claimed she tried to save it. The outsider who had been cast out for speaking against the powerful. "What is this?" Tom asked, not looking at Jacob, eyes fixed on the woman. Anna climbed down from the wagon before Jacob could answer, moved with economy, no wasted motion, stood on solid ground, and met Tom's stare with one equally steady. "My name is Anna Mankiller. I need work. I am not asking for wages, only shelter and food. In exchange, I will repair your water system." Tom blinked. "My water system does not need repair. Your creek has been dry for 5 years, not because of drought. Because someone built an illegal dam upstream and diverted your water east. I can prove it, and I can fix it." The words fell between them like stones into still water. Tom looked at Jacob. "You brought her here?" Jacob shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "She needed a place. I heard you were short on help since—" He trailed off. "Since Eliza died." The unspoken words hung heavy. Tom turned back to Anna. "How do you know about my creek?" "My father designed the original irrigation system for this ranch. He kept meticulous records. I have his maps, his surveys, his notes. I know every water source within 20 miles, and I know when something is wrong. Owen Mankiller died 10 years ago." "Yes, but his knowledge did not die with him. I carry it." Tom studied her, saw the mud stains on her dress that no amount of washing had fully removed, saw the old scar on her wrist, faded white against brown skin, saw the way she held herself spine straight, chin level, like a woman who had been knocked down and learned to get back up. He saw someone who had lost everything and refused to be broken by it. "You were expelled from Sloan's Crossing," he said. "Yes." "Accused of murder?" "Accused, not convicted. There was no evidence because I did not do it." "But you were there when the dam broke?" Anna's jaw tightened. The first sign of emotion since she arrived. "I was there because I knew it would break. I had warned Cyrus Sloan 3 weeks prior, showed him the structural flaws. He refused to listen. When the monsoon rain started, I went back hoping I could shore up the weak points long enough for someone to listen. I failed. The dam broke, and because I was the only one there, I became convenient to blame." Tom absorbed this. "Why should I believe you? Because I am still here. If I were truly guilty, I would have run. Instead, I stayed through the trial, accepted the exile, and now I am offering my skills to someone who needs them, for no pay, only a chance to prove that my father's teachings were worth something." Silence stretched between them. Jacob Reed cleared his throat, anxious to leave. Tom looked at the guitar lying by the fire pit, looked at the empty creek bed, looked at the woman standing before him with nothing but her father's legacy and her own stubborn pride. "The bunkhouse is behind the barn," he said finally. "It is not much. Roof leaks, needs cleaning, but it is shelter." Anna nodded once. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet. Work starts before dawn. It is hard work. I do not have time to teach or to repeat instructions." "I do not need teaching. I need tools and water access." "And do not," Tom added, voice harder now, "ask me about my past. Do not try to befriend me. Do not expect conversation or companionship. You are here to work, nothing more." Anna met his eyes. "I did not come here to be saved, Mr. Mercer. I came here to work. We understand each other." Tom nodded, gestured toward the barn. "Jacob can help you carry your things." Jacob, relieved to have a task, grabbed 2 of the bags. Anna took the 3rd. As they walked away, Tom stood alone in the yard. The guitar still waited by the fire, but now it felt wrong to burn it, as if Anna's arrival had shifted something, changed the air, made destruction feel less like necessity and more like cowardice. He left the guitar where it lay, returned to the house, and wondered what he had just allowed into his carefully constructed isolation. Anna worked in silence. For 3 days she rose before the sun. Tom would see her lamplight in the bunkhouse window, a small orange glow against the pre-dawn darkness. By the time he emerged for his own chores, she was already down at Whisper Creek, kneeling in the dry bed with tools spread around her like surgeons' instruments. She had a measuring tape made from waxed cloth, a surveyor's compass, old and brass, kept in a leather case that bore Owen Mankiller's initials, a notebook with a worn cover pages filled with diagrams and calculations in precise handwriting, and a collection of hollow bamboo tubes of varying lengths, which Tom eventually realized she used to test soil depth and composition. She did not ask for his help, did not ask for anything except permission to examine the property boundaries. Tom granted it and kept his distance. He told himself it was because he had no interest in her work, that he was simply honoring their agreement. Shelter and food for labor, nothing more. But the truth which he did not acknowledge even to himself was that watching her work reminded him too much of watching Eliza do anything with focus and purpose, the way a person looked when they were fully present in a moment, alive in a way he no longer knew how to be. On the fourth morning, Lucas Morrison arrived. Tom was in the barn, mucking stalls, when he heard the horse. He set down his pitchfork and walked out to find Lucas dismounting near the house. Lucas Morrison was 40, built solid from years of ranch work, with brown hair going gray at the temples and a face that showed every emotion like a book with large print. Right now, it showed guilt. He carried a basket covered with a cloth. "Ruth sent food," he said. "Bread, preserves, some stew." Tom nodded, took the basket. "Thank her for me." She would have come herself, but Lucas trailed off. But coming to the home of a widower without a chaperone would start talk. Small town rules even out here where neighbors were separated by miles. They stood in awkward silence, the kind that forms between men who have too much to say and no practice saying it. Finally, Lucas spoke. "Tom, about that night." "Do not." "I have to. I need to say this." Tom set the basket down on the porch rail. Waited. Lucas drew a breath. "If it had not been my children, Eliza would still be alive. I know that. You know that. And I live with that knowledge every single day." "Your children would be dead." "Yes." "So what do you want from me?" "Absolution, permission to stop feeling guilty." Lucas flinched. "I want you to know that I am sorry, that Ruth and I, we think about it, we pray about it, we ask God why the choice had to exist at all." Tom's hands clenched at his sides. "There was no choice. Those kids were dying. I went. That is the end of it." "Is it?" Lucas asked quietly. "Because from where I stand, you have been punishing yourself ever since, burning her things, refusing company, living like a hermit. That is not your concern. It is when I am the reason." Tom turned away, looked at the horizon, red cliffs and blue sky and nothing else. Empty. Clean. Simple. "You want to help, Lucas? Then leave. Stop bringing food. Stop checking on me. Stop carrying guilt that is not yours to carry." "Whose is it then?" The question hung in the air. Tom had no answer, or too many answers, or the answer was too complicated to speak aloud. Lucas sighed. "Tom, there is something else you should know. About Eliza." Tom went still. "What about her? Ruth saw you, through the window, the morning Eliza died. She saw you burn something, a paper." Tom's heart lurched. Ruth should mind her own business. She did not read it. She would never. But she knows what it was, because Eliza came to her, a week before she died. Asked Ruth if choosing to leave was a sin. The words hit like physical blows. "Ruth told her it was not." Lucas' continued voice gentling, "told her that pain is not weakness, that asking for help is not burden. But Eliza said something that Ruth cannot forget. She said Tom carries too much already. I cannot add to it." Tom closed his eyes, felt the world tilt. "Eliza thought she was a burden," Lucas said. "And you let the whole town believe she died of illness because you were trying to protect her. But Tom, the secret is killing you. Ruth sees it, I see it, and keeping it locked inside is not protecting anyone. It is just making sure you die alone, too." Tom opened his eyes, met Lucas's gaze. "Are you finished?" "No. One more thing. Reverend Ashford knows, too. Eliza went to him seeking counsel. He is bound by clergy confidentiality, so he cannot speak of it. But he told me I should tell you that secrets have a weight, and eventually weight breaks foundations." Tom picked up the basket. "Thank Ruth for the food. Tell her and the Reverend and anyone else who is concerned that I am managing, and that I do not need saving." "Everyone needs saving, Tom. The question is whether you will let anyone try." Lucas mounted his horse. Before riding away, he looked down at Tom one last time. "You have a woman working for you now, the man-killer girl. People are talking. Let them talk. They are saying she is dangerous, that she destroyed the Sloan Dam out of spite. Do you believe that?" Lucas considered. "I believe the Sloan family has made enemies, and I believe powerful men sometimes blame the powerless to protect themselves. But I also believe you should be careful, not because she is dangerous, but because this town is." He rode away. Tom stood alone in the yard holding a basket of food he had not asked for, carrying secrets he could not share, wondering when exactly his life had become a weight too heavy to lift. That night Tom could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, watching shadows shift as the moon moved across the sky. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Eliza's handwriting, heard her voice, felt the weight of choices made and unmade. At 2 in the morning, he gave up, rose, dressed, walked out onto the porch, and saw a light at Whisper Creek. A single lantern, small and golden in the darkness. Someone was down there. Anna. Tom grabbed his own lantern and walked toward the creek. His boots crunched on dry earth, each step loud in the vast silence of the basin. As he approached, he could see Anna kneeling in the creek bed surrounded by papers weighed down with stones. Her notebook lay open, covered in fresh drawings. Beside her were several of the bamboo tubes, some with dirt still packed inside. She did not look up when he arrived, simply continued working, measuring something with a length of string. "It is 2 in the morning," Tom said. "Yes." "Normal people sleep at 2 in the morning. I am not normal people." Tom set his lantern on a flat rock, looked at the scattered papers, maps, cross-sections, calculations that made no sense to him. "What are you doing?" Anna sat back on her heels, wiped dirt from her hands. "Tracing your water. Whisper Creek is fed by an underground aquifer that surfaces about 5 miles upstream. My father mapped it in 1874. According to his notes, this creek should be flowing year-round even in drought. But it is not. No, which means something is blocking or diverting the source." She pointed to one of her drawings. "I have been taking soil samples at intervals along the creek bed. The composition changes here." She tapped the paper about 3 miles upstream. "The earth is compacted differently. Unnatural, as if something large was built and then disguised." Tom knelt down beside her, looked at the drawing, saw nothing but lines and numbers. "You think someone built a dam, not a proper dam, something crude, but effective. Piled earth and stone probably, reinforced with timber, just enough to redirect the water into a channel leading east." Toward what? Anna pulled out another map. This one showed property boundaries. She pointed to a section east of Hart's Hollow, toward land that was purchased 5 years ago. Multiple small ranches bought up over a 2-year period, all at reduced prices because, mysteriously, their water sources had dried up. Tom stared at the map. Who bought them? The Sloan Family Trust. The name hit like cold water. Cyrus Sloan was acquiring water rights, Anna continued, voice clinical factual, not through honest purchase but through manufactured drought. Build an illegal diversion, wait for the ranchers to go bankrupt, buy the land cheap, then remove the diversion and suddenly discover a new water source. That is illegal. Very, but also very difficult to prove, especially when the people investigating are friends with the people doing it. Tom looked at her. "You sound like you have seen this before." Something flickered across Anna's face. Pain quickly suppressed. "My father discovered a similar scheme in 1875. He reported it to the territorial authorities. Nothing happened. 2 years later, he became ill. The doctor said cancer, but the symptoms were wrong. Too fast, too aggressive." "You think he was poisoned?" "I think he knew too much about who controlled the water. And I think powerful men do not like being exposed by half-breed engineers who should know their place." Tom absorbed this. "So you came here because I need to prove I was right about the Sloan Dam. And to do that, I need to find evidence of the larger pattern. If I can show that your water was stolen, that other ranches were targeted, that this was a conspiracy, then maybe people will believe I was trying to stop it, not help it." She looked at him directly. "I am not asking you to trust me, Mr. Mercer. I am asking you to let me prove the truth. Once I have evidence, I will leave. You will have your water back, and I will have my father's name restored." Tom was quiet for a long moment, listening to the night sounds, wind, distant coyotes, the absence of water where water should be. "If you are right," he said slowly, "and someone did steal my water, then they will not want you proving it. These people, whoever they are, have already killed to keep their secrets." "I know. And you are willing to risk that." Anna's hands tightened on her notebook. "My father spent his life believing that knowledge should serve everyone, not just the powerful. He died for that belief. I will not dishonor him by staying silent because I am afraid." Tom studied her face in the lamplight, saw determination, saw grief, saw something that looked like his own stubborn refusal to accept defeat. He made a decision. 3 miles upstream, you said? Yes. Show me where. Tomorrow we go look. Anna's eyes widened slightly, the first surprise he had seen from her. You believe me. I believe that my creek used to flow, and now it does not. I believe that men who want power will do terrible things to get it. And I believe that if you are right, then I want my water back. He stood, offered her a hand up. She took it. Her grip was strong, calloused, the hand of someone who worked with tools and earth. Thank you, she said quietly. Do not thank me yet. If we find what you say, we will find things are going to get difficult. This town does not forgive people who challenge the people in charge. I have already been exiled once. I am not afraid of difficult. Tom released her hand, picked up his lantern. Get some sleep. We leave at dawn. He started to walk away, then paused, turned back. Miss Mankiller, one more thing. Yes? Earlier you said you did not come here to be saved. I need you to know that I did not hire you to save me either. Whatever we find, whatever happens, I am not looking for redemption or rescue. I am looking for truth, nothing more. Anna nodded. Then we want the same thing. Tom walked back to the house. Behind him, Anna's lantern stayed lit, a small point of light in the vast darkness, stubborn and unextinguished. For the first time in 2 weeks, Tom felt something other than grief move through him. Purpose, maybe, or anger, or the faint, dangerous stirring of hope. 3 days later, Tom and Anna stood at the source of Whisper Creek, 5 miles into the hills, surrounded by juniper and red stone. It had taken them most of the day to reach this point, following the dry creek bed upstream, watching as Anna stopped periodically to check her maps, take measurements, mark their position. And now they stood before the proof. A dam, crude but effective. Earth and stone piled high, reinforced with timber beams that bore the marks of professional carpentry. It stretched across a narrow canyon, blocking the natural channel of Whisper Creek and diverting the water into a man-made ditch that curved sharply east. Tom stared at it, felt rage build in his chest like pressure behind a failing dam. 5 years, he said, voice tight. For 5 years I thought my land was cursed, that the water dried up because of drought or bad luck or God's will, and all along someone stole it. Anna walked closer to the dam, examined the construction. This is well built. Whoever made this knew what they were doing. This is not amateur work. Can we destroy it? Yes, but if we do, we will be arrested for vandalism. We need proof first. Proof that this dam is illegal. Proof of who built it. How do we get that? Anna knelt down, examined the base of one of the support beams, and went very still. What? Tom asked. She pointed. Carved into the wood, small and neat, were initials. C.S. Cyrus Sloan. He signed his work, Anna whispered. The arrogance. Tom moved closer, saw the initials, felt everything click into place. We take this to the sheriff, he said. Show him. Demand an investigation. Anna shook her head. Sheriff Bauer is appointed by the town council. Who do you think sits on that council? Tom closed his eyes. People loyal to the Sloan family. And who do you think will investigate? No one. Exactly. They stood in silence. The stolen water flowed past them, bright and clear and utterly indifferent to justice. So what do we do? Tom asked. Anna looked at the dam, at the water, at the initials carved into wood that had been meant to last forever. We destroy it, she said, tonight, and we let the water speak for itself. You said we would be arrested. We will. But once the water flows back to Hart's Hollow, once people see that it was diverted artificially, questions will be asked. And even corrupt men cannot silence a creek that returns from the dead. Tom looked at her. You know this will not end well, for either of us. I know. But I am tired of running, tired of being silent, tired of watching liars win because honest people are too afraid to act. Tom thought of Eliza, of the letter he had burned, of the truth he had hidden because exposure felt too dangerous. Lucas was right. Secrets had weight, and weight broke foundations. Tonight, then, he said, we bring the water back. They worked through the evening gathering tools, shovels, pry bars, rope. As the sun set and darkness covered the basin, they rowed back to the dam, and they began to dismantle it. The work was brutal. Each stone weighed more than it looked. Each timber beam resisted removal. Sweat soaked their clothes despite the cool night air. Blisters formed and broke and formed again, but slowly the dam began to fail. Water seeped through the gaps, then trickled, then poured. Tom was using a pry bar to lever a large stone when Anna shouted, "Careful! If it goes too fast, we will have flooding." But the warning came too late. The stone shifted. Water pressure did the rest. The entire center section of the dam collapsed in a rush of sound and fury. Grabbed her arm, pulled her up onto solid ground, grabbed her arm, pulled her up onto solid ground as the flood roared past beneath them. They scrambled up the canyon wall, stood on a ledge 20 feet above the creek bed, watched as 5 years of stolen water reclaimed its rightful path. Tom's heart pounded. Anna's breathing came in gasps, and then from behind them a voice. "Well now, this is interesting." They turned. 5 men stood at the top of the canyon, lanterns in hand, faces illuminated by gold light. Barrett Sloan at the front, 4 ranch hands behind him, all armed. Barrett looked down at the destroyed dam, at the water flowing free, at Tom and Anna covered in mud and exhaustion. "So it was you," Barrett said. His voice was strange, not angry, almost relieved. "You destroyed another dam." Anna stepped forward. "This dam was illegal, built on public land to steal water from private ranchers. Look at the beam there. Your father's initials. He built this. He stole Tom Mercer's water, and he did it to bankrupt this ranch so he could buy it cheap." Barrett's face was unreadable in the lamplight. "You have proof?" he asked. "The initials, the location, the fact that the dam exists at all?" "Yes, we have proof." Barrett was silent for a long time. Then he said something that made Tom's blood run cold. "So did my father, and that is why he is dead." Anna went very still. "What? My father kept records, ledgers, maps, proof of every illegal dam, every bought official, every threatened farmer. He was going to confess, going to turn over everything to the territorial governor. Someone found out, and 2 days later his dam collapsed, with him standing on it." Barrett's voice cracked. "The Sloan family dam did not fail by accident, Miss Mankiller. It was sabotaged, just like you said, but not by you." He looked directly at Anna. "You tried to save him. I realize that now. And I blamed you because it was easier than accepting that someone in this town murdered my father to keep him quiet." Tom stepped forward. "Who?" Barrett shook his head. "I do not know, but I know it was not her. And I know that whoever did it, they will kill again to protect their secrets." He looked at his men. "Mr. Cross, please escort Mr. Mercer and Miss Mankiller back to town. They are under arrest for destruction of public property." Anna's face hardened. "You are arresting us? After everything I just told you?" Barrett met her eyes. "I am arresting you to keep you alive. Whoever killed my father knows about this dam. They will have seen the water return, and they will be coming. The only safe place for you right now is a jail cell with witnesses." He turned to Tom. "I am sorry, Mercer, but this is bigger than stolen water. There is a conspiracy in this town, and you just kicked the hornet's nest." As they were led away, Tom looked back at Whisper Creek. For the first time in 5 years, water flowed down toward Hart's Hollow. The land drank deep, grateful, unaware of the price that had just been paid for its return. The town hall of Sloan's Crossing had not changed in the 3 months since Anna's first trial. Same wooden chairs, same high windows cutting sunlight into accusatory beams, same smell of dust and old judgment. But everything else was different. This time Tom Mercer stood beside Anna at the front of the room. This time the crowd was larger, angrier, confused. This time Judge Harlan Cole's face held something beyond practiced authority. It held worry. The judge gavelled the room to order, 3 sharp strikes that echoed like gunshots. "This court is convened to address charges of destruction of public property against Thomas Mercer and Anna Mankiller. Sheriff Bauer, present your case." Sheriff Daniel Bauer stood, 50 years old, weathered and careful. A man who had learned that survival in a small town meant choosing battles wisely. He held a folder of papers, but his eyes kept drifting to the window as if seeking escape. "Your Honor, on the night of October 3rd, Mr. Mercer and Miss Mankiller were apprehended at Copper Canyon, where they had destroyed a water management structure on public land. The damage was extensive, the structure completely demolished. Water was released without authorization, causing potential flooding downstream. Judge Cole nodded. Mr. Mercer, how do you plead? Tom stepped forward. His jaw was set, shoulders squared. He wore his Sunday suit, brushed clean but showing its age. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the room. Not guilty, Your Honor. The structure in question was not on public land. It was built illegally on property that borders my ranch. I have documentation to prove it. He pulled out a leather folder. Inside were maps yellowed with age but still legible. Survey documents from 1869, when the territory was first parceled and sold. Property deeds, water rights certificates. These maps show the original boundaries of Hart's Hollow. According to territorial survey records, the so-called public land where the dam stood is actually within my property line. The dam itself was built without my knowledge or consent. It diverted water that legally belongs to my ranch. Judge Cole's face tightened. Those are old maps, Mr. Mercer. Boundaries have been resurveyed multiple times since territorial days. Yes, Your Honor, and each time they were resurveyed, they shifted slightly, always in favor of certain families, always reducing the water access of smaller ranchers. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Anna stepped forward. Your Honor, I can provide additional documentation. My father, Owen Mankiller, was hired in 1875 to conduct an independent survey of water rights in this valley. His measurements are precise and independently verified. According to his survey, which I have here, she held up a worn notebook, at least 7 ranches have had their legal water access reduced through fraudulent boundary adjustments. That is a serious accusation, Miss Mankiller. It is a documented fact. I am simply requesting that this court compare my father's survey with the current land office records. If they match, then the current boundaries are correct. If they do not, then someone has been altering official documents. Judge Cole's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. This court does not have jurisdiction over land office records. Then perhaps, Tom said quietly, this court should refer the matter to the territorial authorities. Because if boundaries were altered and water rights stolen, then every land sale in this county for the past 10 years is potentially fraudulent. The murmur became a roar. Farmers and ranchers shouting questions, voices overlapping, the people who had been silent for so long suddenly finding their anger. Judge Cole's gavel came down repeatedly. Order, I will have order. But before silence could be restored, a woman stood, Catherine Vance, still dressed in black, still beautiful, still carrying herself like Eastern money in a Western town. But now her face held something new, resolution. Your Honor, I have something to say. Judge Cole looked like he wanted to refuse, but denying a woman of Catherine Vance's standing would raise more questions than allowing her to speak. The court recognizes Mrs. Vance. Catherine moved to the center aisle. Every eye in the room followed her. 3 years ago, my husband Harold discovered that our ranch boundaries had been altered in the county records. He compared our original deed with the current survey and found that we had lost access to a spring that fed our eastern pastures. When he attempted to file a complaint, he was told it was a clerical error, that it would be corrected. She paused, drew breath. 2 weeks later, my husband died. He was found at the bottom of a ravine, his horse beside him. The official cause was riding accident, but Harold was the finest horseman in this territory. He had ridden that trail 1,000 times, and his horse, a gentle mare named Patience, had never spooked at anything. Her voice did not waver, did not break. Each word fell like a stone into still water. I did not speak then because I was afraid, because I had 2 daughters to protect, because I did not want to believe that someone in this town would kill over a spring. But I kept Harold's papers. Every letter he wrote to the land office, every response he received, every measurement he took. She pulled a thick envelope from her bag, set it on the judge's bench. This is evidence that water rights in this valley have been systematically stolen, that boundary lines have been altered, that complaints have been ignored, and that at least 1 man died trying to expose it. The room was completely silent now, the kind of silence that comes before lightning. Judge Cole stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "Mrs. Vance, these are serious allegations." "They are documented facts, Your Honor, and I am formally requesting a territorial investigation into land office practices, water rights management, and the circumstances surrounding my husband's death." A man stood up in the back, Joseph Martinez, owner of a struggling farm on the southern edge of the valley. His face was weathered, dark hands gnarled from work. "My family lost our well 3 years ago," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Suddenly went dry. We had to sell our land to pay debts. The buyer was a company I had never heard of. Later I learned it was owned by the Sloan Family Trust." Another stood, then another, each with a story: a dried well, a diverted creek, a boundary dispute that went nowhere, a complaint that disappeared. The pattern emerged like a photograph in developing solution: slow, undeniable, damning. Judge Cole looked pale. His hand shook visibly now as he raised it for silence. "This court will take a 30-minute recess. When we reconvene, I will rule on the charges against Mr. Mercer and Miss Mankiller. In the meantime, I strongly suggest that anyone with evidence of land office irregularities submit it to Sheriff Bauer for forwarding to Santa Fe." He stood, left through the back door, moved like a man who had just realized the ground beneath him was not solid. Tom turned to Anna. "Did you know Mrs. Vance would speak?" "No, but I knew she had cause. My father mentioned Harold Vance in his notes, said he was one of the honest ones." Barrett Sloan appeared at their side. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed. He had lost weight in the past months. Grief and revelation had carved him thinner. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Not here. Too many ears." They met behind the feed store in an alley where delivery wagons blocked them from view. Barrett paced, unable to stand still. Tom and Anna waited. Finally Barrett stopped, turned to face them. "I lied at the creek," he said. "Or rather, I did not tell you everything." Anna's expression did not change. "What did you leave out?" "I said I did not know who killed my father. That was true. But I did not tell you that I knew what he was doing. The water theft, the boundary changes, the intimidation." He pulled off his hat, ran fingers through his hair. The gesture made him look younger, vulnerable. "After my father died, I found his ledgers, account books going back 15 years, payments to surveyors, payments to land office clerks, payouts to men who convinced farmers to sell cheap, and notes. Detailed notes about every property he wanted, every obstacle in his way, every solution he implemented." Tom's jaw tightened. "You found proof of conspiracy, and you burned it." "Yes." "Why?" Barrett's face twisted. "Because he was my father. Because I did not want to believe he was a criminal. Because if I admitted what he had done, I would have to give back everything he built. The land, the money, the respect, everything." He sat down on a crate, head in his hands. "I told myself he did it for the family, for our future. That in the West you take what you can hold, that it was just business. But after the trial, after seeing what they did to you," he looked at Anna. "I could not keep lying to myself." Anna's voice was flat. "So you developed a conscience. Congratulations. Do you want forgiveness?" "No, I want to help. I know things. Names, dates, places where evidence might still exist. My father did not work alone. There were others, powerful men who made this system work." Tom leaned against the wall. "Who?" Barrett looked around as if the walls had ears, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "There were 5 of them. They called themselves the Water Council, though that was never official. My father, Cyrus Sloan, Harold Vance before he tried to back out, Judge Harlan Cole, Dr. Samuel Cross, and Jacob Reed." The names fell like stones. "Judge Cole," Anna said. "He oversees property disputes." "Exactly. Who better to ensure complaints go nowhere? Dr. Cross. He handled deaths, ruled them accidental, made sure no awkward questions were asked during inquests. Jacob Reed, transportation. He controlled who could move goods in and out of the valley, who could afford to ranch here, who was forced to sell because shipping costs became impossible." Tom felt sick. How long? At least 15 years, maybe longer. They bought up water rights slowly, piece by piece, always legal on paper, always someone willing to sell to escape debt. But the debt was manufactured. The droughts were engineered. He stood, pulled a small key from his pocket. "I kept one thing, a strong box my father hid in the barn. I could not open it. did not have the key. But 2 nights ago, I found the key in his desk, hidden inside a false bottom. He held it out to Tom. Inside that box is a ledger, the real one. Names, amounts, deals, everything. I cannot be the one to turn it in. They would say I forged it to save myself. But if you found it, if you brought it to territorial authorities, they might listen. Tom took the key. It was warm from Barrett's hand. Small, ordinary, the kind of thing that opened jewelry boxes or desk drawers. Where is the strong box? In my barn, north wall behind the feed bins. It is buried in the floor covered with boards. Anna studied Barrett's face. Why are you doing this? Really? Barrett met her eyes. Because when I close my eyes, I see my father standing on that dam. See it collapse. See him fall. And I know that I helped kill him by staying silent. Someone in that council decided he was too weak to trust, that he would confess, so they removed him. His voice broke. They killed my father and I did nothing. I will not do nothing again. Tom pocketed the key. This does not make us friends. I know. And it does not erase what you did to her. I know that too. Anna surprised them both by stepping forward. She did not offer forgiveness, but she offered her hand. You cannot undo the past, Barrett, but you can choose what comes next. Help us expose them, all of them, and maybe that is enough. Barrett shook her hand. His grip was firm, desperate. Thank you. Do not thank me. Just do not betray us again, because next time there will be no mercy. Judge Cole dismissed all charges an hour later. Not because he believed Tom and Anna were innocent, but because with Catherine Vance demanding a territorial investigation and half the valley suddenly willing to testify about water theft, keeping them in jail would only make things worse. He released them with a warning. Stay away from public land. Make no further accusations without proof. Cause no trouble. It was the warning of a man who knew he was losing control. Tom and Anna rode back to Hart's Hollow in silence. The sun was setting, painting the cliffs in shades of rust and gold. Whisper Creek flowed beside the road now, clear and cold, returned from exile. When they reached the ranch, Anna dismounted and simply stood looking at the water. It caught the last light, turning liquid amber. I have not seen it flow since I was 14, she said quietly. My father brought me here when he was consulting on the irrigation system. I remember thinking the creek sounded like whispers, like the earth was telling secrets. Tom tied the horses. What secrets? That water always finds truth. You can dam it, divert it, steal it. But eventually it returns to its course, because water is patient, and truth is water. She turned to him. In the fading light, her face looked softer, younger, the hard armor she wore beginning to crack. Thank you, she said. For what? For believing me, for standing beside me in that courtroom, for risking your ranch, your reputation, your safety. You did not have to do any of that. Tom shook his head. Yes, I did. They stole from me, from all of us. Staying silent would have been easier, but it would have been wrong. They walked to the porch, sat on the steps watching the last color drain from the sky. The air cooled rapidly the way it always did in the high desert. Soon they would need coats, but for now the warmth of the day lingered. Anna broke the silence first. Can I ask you something personal? Tom tensed. You can ask. Your wife, Eliza. How did she really die? Tom's breath caught. What makes you think the official story is not true? Because Lucas Morrison looks at you with guilt. Because you burned something the morning she died. Because you live like a man carrying a secret too heavy to share. Tom was quiet for a long time, so long that Anna began to think he would not answer. Then he spoke. She took laudanum, a whole bottle, left a letter saying she was tired, that she could not keep being second choice, that she loved me but needed to choose something for herself, and death was the only choice left that was hers. The words came out flat, rehearsed, as if he had practiced saying them without feeling them. I burned the letter, told everyone it was pneumonia, let the town believe she was a victim of illness instead of despair, because I thought that was protecting her memory. Anna did not reach for him, did not offer empty comfort, just listened. But Lucas is right. The secret is killing me. Every time someone says how sorry they are about the fever, I have to smile and nod and accept sympathy for a lie, and I wonder if keeping her secret makes me complicit in her death. Do you think you killed her? The question was brutal in its directness. Tom flinched. I think I made a choice. 3 children or my wife. And I chose the children, and she could not live with being unchosen. Would you make the same choice again? I do not know. God help me, I do not know. Anna looked at the stars beginning to appear overhead, diamond points in deepening blue. My mother died when I was 8. Influenza. My father was away doing a survey in Colorado. He came home to find her already buried. For years he blamed himself, said if he had been there he could have done something. But influenza does not care if you are there. It takes who it takes. She turned to Tom. You could not save Eliza from herself, just like you could not save her from pneumonia if that had truly been what killed her. Some things are beyond our power. The only choice we have is whether we let the guilt destroy us or whether we use it to become better. How do I do that? By being here now, by fighting for truth when it would be easier to stay silent, by choosing every day to be present instead of hiding. Tom looked at her, really looked, saw not the accused saboteur or the exiled outsider, saw a woman who had lost as much as he had and refused to let loss define her. You are not what I expected, he said. What did you expect? I do not know. Someone broken maybe, someone running. I am both those things, but I am also my father's daughter. And he taught me that you can be broken and still build. You can be running and still stand your ground. The two are not opposites. A comfortable silence settled between them, not the awkward quiet of strangers, the easy quiet of people who had seen each other's wounds and not looked away. After a while Tom spoke again. When this is over, when we expose the Water Council and get justice for your father and my stolen water and everyone else they hurt, what will you do? Anna considered. I had planned to leave, go somewhere my name does not carry accusations, start over. And now she looked at Whisper Creek flowing dark and steady in the starlight. Now I think maybe I am tired of starting over. Maybe it is time to finish something. Tom felt his heart beat faster. Finish what? My father's work. There are other valleys, other ranchers being cheated, other water systems that need honest engineers. She hesitated. I could stay. Help you expand the irrigation here. Then move to the next place. Build a reputation based on results instead of rumors. That would mean staying in New Mexico, yes? Near Sloan's Crossing, yes. Near people who hate you. Anna smiled then, small and fierce. Let them hate. I will be too busy working to care. Tom found himself smiling back. The first real smile since Eliza died. It felt strange on his face, unpracticed, but good. Then stay, at least until we finish this fight. After that, we can decide what comes next. If you are staying, I am helping. Fair trade. You gave me my water. I will give you a chance to prove your father's legacy. Anna extended her hand. Partners, then. Tom shook it. Her hand was warm, strong, real. Partners. They sat together as full dark fell, and for the first time in longer than either could remember, the silence felt like peace instead of punishment. Lucas Morrison arrived the next morning with news. Vernon Pike has been found. Tom looked up from the fence post he was setting. Anna straightened from her work measuring water flow, both covered in honest dirt, both looking more alive than they had in months. Pike, the accountant. Yes, he was Cyrus Sloan's bookkeeper, disappeared right after the dam collapse. Sheriff thought he ran because he knew something. Turns out he has been in Silver City, dying. Anna wiped her hands. Dying of what? Consumption. The doc there says he has maybe a week, but he sent word through a merchant that he wants to talk, says he has information about water rights fraud, says he needs to confess before he meets his maker. Tom and Lucas exchanged glances. How far is Silver City? 2 days hard riding. 3 if you spare the horses. When do we leave? Lucas smiled grimly. I already packed supplies. Ruth insisted I go with you. She said if I let you two ride into potential danger without backup, she would brain me with a skillet. Anna almost laughed. Mrs. Morrison is formidable. You have no idea. They left within the hour. 3 horses, 3 riders, heading southwest toward Answers. On the trail, Lucas finally spoke the thing he had been holding back. Tom, Ruth told me to tell you something. She said I should have told you months ago, but I was too afraid. Tom's shoulders tensed. Told me what? Eliza came to Ruth a week before she died. Asked about the morality of choosing to leave. Ruth thought she meant leaving you, divorce. She counseled patience. Told Eliza that all marriages go through hard times, that love requires work. Lucas's voice roughened. But Eliza was not talking about leaving you for another man or another life. She was asking if suicide was forgivable, if God would understand, if it was selfish or merciful. Tom's hands tightened on the reins. Ruth did not understand until she saw you burn that letter. Then she knew. And she has carried guilt ever since, thinking if she had just understood what Eliza was really asking, she could have helped, could have told you, could have saved her. Could she have? Tom's voice was rough. I do not know, but Ruth needs you to know that she tried, that she cared, that your wife's death was not for lack of people loving her. It was because the pain was too deep for love to reach. Tom rode in silence for a long time. Finally he said, Tell Ruth I do not blame her. Tell her that Eliza made her choice, and carrying guilt for not reading minds is as pointless as me carrying guilt for not being two places at once. Lucas nodded. I will tell her. Anna, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Mr. Morrison, can I ask you something? Lucas, please. Lucas, you said your children were stranded at Black Ridge during the snowstorm. What were they doing there? Lucas's face clouded. They had gone to visit their grandmother, against my orders. Storm came up sudden. They tried to ride home, got lost. So they chose to disobey, and you and Tom paid the price for their choice. Lucas looked startled. I never thought of it that way. Children make choices. Wives make choices. We all make choices. And sometimes the consequences fall on people who do not deserve them. That is not justice. It is just life. She looked at Tom. But we also get to choose how we respond. Tom chose to save your children. Eliza chose to leave. You chose to feel guilty. And Tom chose to hide the truth. All choices, all with consequences, but none of them wrong in the way we judge wrong. Tom stared at her. You are saying there was no right answer. I am saying that sometimes the only wrong answer is to stop choosing, to let guilt or fear or shame make your choices for you. You chose action over paralysis. That matters. They rode on. The sun climbed higher. The desert spread around them, vast and indifferent to human struggles. But something had shifted. Some weight had been redistributed, if not removed. Silver City was a mining town, raw and new, built on silver strikes and desperate hope. The buildings were mostly canvas and raw lumber. The streets were mud or dust, depending on weather. The people were hard-eyed and temporary. They found Vernon Pike in a boarding house on the edge of town, a place where people went to die cheap. The room smelled of sickness and laudanum. Pike lay on a narrow bed, skeletal and gray. 68 years old, but looking 80. Consumption had hollowed him out, left only skin and bone and desperate need to speak. His eyes opened when they entered. Focused on Tom. Mercer, I knew you would come. Tom pulled a chair close. Anna and Lucas stood back, giving them space but staying near enough to hear. Pike, I am told you have information. Pike laughed. The sound turned into coughing that racked his frame. When it subsided, blood flecked his lips. Information. Yes, the kind that kept me alive this long because I knew if I talked they would kill me. But I am dying anyway now, so I will talk, and you will listen. He gestured weakly toward a water glass. Tom helped him drink. Cyrus Sloan was not the mastermind. He was just the face, the willing participant, the one who did not mind getting his hands dirty. But the Water Council was bigger than him. We know about the council. 5 men. Sloan, Vance, Cole, Cross, Reed. Pike's eyes widened slightly. You know. Good, that saves time. He coughed again. Gathered strength. 15 years ago, a territorial survey revealed that this valley sits on one of the largest underground aquifers in New Mexico. Enough water to support 50 ranches, maybe 100. The 5 of them saw opportunity. If they could control the water, they could control everything. Who farms? Who ranches? Who prospers? Who fails? So they started stealing. Not stealing, redirecting, making it legal on paper. They would identify a target ranch. Reed would raise shipping costs, make it unprofitable. Cross would handle any deaths, make sure they looked natural. Cole would reject complaints, delay legal processes. Vance provided the money to buy up foreclosed properties, and Sloan did the actual engineering, the dams, the diversions, the infrastructure. Tom felt rage building. And you kept the books. I recorded everything. They trusted me because I was nobody, just an accountant, just a man who liked numbers more than people. But I kept 2 sets of books, the official ones they knew about, and the real ones they did not. Where are the real books? Pike shook his head. Destroyed. I burned them when I ran, but I remember every transaction, every victim, every crime. Anna stepped forward. My father, Owen Mankiller. Did they kill him? Pike's eyes found hers. Yes, not quickly. Arsenic in his water supply, over 2 years, made it look like cancer, cross-diagnosed it. No one questioned. Anna's face went white. Tom stood, hand on her shoulder. Why, she asked, voice tight. Because Owen found evidence. He was resurveying the valley, found the illegal dams, the altered boundaries. He went to Judge Cole with proof. Cole thanked him, promised investigation, then told the others. They decided Owen was too dangerous, too honest, too likely to keep digging. Pike coughed violently. More blood. Harold Vance wanted out after that, said killing was too far. The others disagreed. Vance died 3 months later. Fell down a ravine. Cross ruled it accidental. Who actually killed him? I do not know. They did not tell me everything. But my guess, Reed, he was former Army, knew how to make things look like accidents. Lucas spoke up. What about Cyrus Sloan? Why did he die? Pike's laugh was bitter. Because he grew a conscience, too. Found religion or found fear. I do not know which. But he told the others he was going to confess, going to turn over evidence to the territorial governor. They could not allow that. So they killed him. The dam collapse was sabotaged. I do not know how, but it was. And Cyrus died thinking his own engineering failed. Poetic in a way. Tom leaned closer. Pike, you are dying. You want absolution or revenge? Both. I want you to destroy them. Use what I told you. Make them pay. And when they are in prison or hanged, I want you to remember that I helped, that at the end I chose truth. Why should I believe you? You were part of this. Because I have nothing left to gain from lying. Because guilt is heavier than any disease. And because... He met Tom's eyes. I kept one thing, one piece of evidence they do not know exists. He gestured to a loose floorboard. Under there, a letter, from Cole to Cross, discussing the Vance problem, proof of conspiracy to commit murder. I stole it from Cole's office years ago. Insurance. Tom pried up the board, found a sealed envelope yellowed with age. Take it. Use it. Burn them all. Pike's breathing became labored, shallow. One more thing. Reed is the most dangerous. Sloan was greedy. Cole is corrupt. Cross is cold. But Reed is violent. If you corner him, he will not go quietly. He will kill. Pike's eyes closed. His breathing rattled. Dr. Samuel Cross, the physician attending him, was not there. Just a young doctor who knew nothing except that his patient was dying. Pike died 3 hours later. They buried him in Silver City's new cemetery. No marker, no mourners except the 3 who had come for his confession. Lucas said a prayer. Anna stood silent. Tom held the letter that might change everything. As they rode away, Tom spoke. We go back. We show this letter to territorial authorities. We expose all of them. Anna nodded, but her face was troubled. What? Tom asked. Reed. If Pike is right, if Reed is the enforcer, then he already knows we went to see Pike, and he will be waiting. Lucas checked his rifle. Then we do not go back alone. We get help. We go to Santa Fe first, directly to the governor. Make sure this evidence gets into the right hands before we return. That will take days. Better slow and alive than fast and dead. They turned their horses north, toward the territorial capital, toward justice. Behind them, Silver City receded. Another boom town that would rise and fall and be forgotten. But the truth Vernon Pike had died to share would not be forgotten. It would burn through Sloan's Crossing like wildfire through drought grass. They were 2 days from Sloan's Crossing when the messenger found them. A young ranch hand riding hard horse, lathered and exhausted. Mr. Mercer. Thank God. Tom reined in. What happened? Fire at the Sloan place. The barn went up last night. Barrett Sloan. He is hurt bad." Anna's face went pale. "How bad?" "Trapped inside when the roof came down. They got him out, but Doc says he might not make it." Tom and Anna exchanged looks. "This is a trap," Lucas said quietly. "Get you to come back. Get you in the open." Anna shook her head. "Or it is real, and Barrett is dying because he helped us." "We do not know that." "No, but I do know what it feels like to be blamed for things you did not do, to die alone because everyone assumed the worst. I will not do that to him." Tom made the decision. "Lucas, you ride to Santa Fe. Take the letter. Get it to the governor. Tell him everything." "Tom, you cannot go back alone." "I am not alone. I have her." Anna nodded. "We go together. We see Barrett. We find out what happened. If it is a trap, we face it. If it is genuine, we help." Lucas looked between them, saw that arguing was pointless. "I will ride fast. Should reach Santa Fe tomorrow night. But if you are not back in 3 days, I'm coming with every marshal I can find." "Fair enough." They split. Lucas north, Tom and Anna south, toward fire, toward danger, toward whatever truth waited in the ashes. They reached Sloan's Crossing at sunset. The barn was still smoldering, black skeleton against red sky. People crowded around watching, whispering. Anna dismounted first, pushed through the crowd. Barrett lay on the ground, covered with a blanket. His face was burned. His breathing labored. Catherine Vance knelt beside him, holding his hand. Dr. Samuel Cross was there, and the sight of him made Tom's blood run cold. But Cross was not treating Barrett. He was standing back watching, waiting. Anna knelt beside Barrett. His eyes opened, focused on her with effort. "You came," he whispered. "Of course." "The strongbox. Did you get it?" "Not yet. We went to find Pike first." Barrett's face twisted. "Then it is gone. They burned the barn. I tried to save it, but the fire was too fast, too hot, like it was planned. Who did this? I do not know, but I know why. Someone knew I was helping you. Someone wanted me dead, wanted the evidence destroyed." Catherine Vance spoke. "Miss Mankiller, I do not know if you are what they say you are, but my husband trusted your father, and Barrett trusts you. That is enough for me." She stood, faced Dr. Cross. "Doctor, will you help him or just stand there watching him die?" Cross's face was carefully neutral. "I have done what I can. His lungs are damaged from smoke. The burns are severe. We must wait and see." Wait and see, or wait and hope? Cross did not answer. Anna looked at the burned barn, at the crowd, at the faces lit by dying firelight, and she saw it, saw the pattern. "The fire was set," she said quietly. "This was not an accident." Sheriff Bauer stepped forward. "Now, Miss Mankiller, let us not jump to conclusions." "I am not jumping. I am observing. Look at the burn pattern. The fire started in multiple places simultaneously. The doors were barred from outside. This was deliberate." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Tom stepped beside her. "Someone tried to kill Barrett, and I think we know why. He was helping us investigate water theft. He had evidence. Now the evidence is gone and he is dying." Dr. Cross moved suddenly toward his horse. "Where are you going?" Tom called. "To get more supplies, morphine, bandages." But his eyes said otherwise. Tom started after him, but Cross was already mounted, riding hard toward the edge of town. Sheriff Bauer made no move to stop him. Anna turned to the sheriff. "You saw that. He fled. I saw a doctor going to get medical supplies. You saw a guilty man running." Bauer's face was stone. "I saw nothing, and neither did anyone else, unless you have proof." Tom pulled the envelope from his coat. "I have this, a letter from Judge Cole to Dr. Cross, discussing the murder of Harold Vance, written evidence of conspiracy." The crowd went silent. Bauer's hand moved toward his gun. "Where did you get that? Vernon Pike, before he died. He kept evidence, and now we are taking it to the territorial governor." Bauer's face twitched, calculation running behind his eyes. Then Catherine Vance did something unexpected. She pulled a Derringer from her handbag, small, deadly at close range, pointed it at Sheriff Bauer. "My husband was murdered," she said calmly. "And you knew. You all knew. And you did nothing. But I am done doing nothing." Mrs. Vance put the gun down. "Not until you arrest Dr. Cross. Not until you acknowledge what has been happening in this town." The standoff held, frozen, deadly. Then Barrett coughed. Violent. Wet. Blood came from his mouth. Anna turned back to him. "Stay with me, please." But his eyes were unfocused, his breathing erratic. Tom knelt beside her. "Can you help him? I am an engineer, not a doctor. You know herbs, medicine. Your mother was a healer. My mother also died trying to save people. And would she want you to stand by and watch when you might help?" Anna looked at Barrett, at the man who had accused her, exiled her, nearly destroyed her, and made a choice. "I need water, clean cloth, whiskey if you have it. And everyone who is not helping needs to back away." Catherine Vance helped. So did 3 women from the town. Together they cleaned Barrett's burns-forced water between his lips, kept him breathing. Tom and Sheriff Bauer continued their standoff, neither moving, neither backing down. And as night fell completely, as the last embers of the barn died to ash, as Barrett Sloan fought for each breath, the town of Sloan's Crossing balanced on a knife edge, waiting to see which way it would fall, toward truth or toward the comfortable lie, toward justice or toward the silence that had protected monsters for far too long. Barrett Sloan did not die that night. He came close. His lungs filled with fluid, his fever spiked so high that Catherine held snow against his forehead, brought from the high peaks by riders Tom sent at midnight. Anna stayed beside him, forcing willow bark tea between his lips when he was conscious enough to swallow, using every scrap of knowledge her mother had taught her before dying. But he lived, and while he fought for breath, Dr. Samuel Cross rode hard into the mountains. Tom and Sheriff Bauer maintained their standoff until dawn. Catherine Vance never lowered her derringer. The town watched, waited, held its collective breath like a man underwater, not knowing if he would surface or drown. When the sun rose, Lucas Morrison returned from Santa Fe. But he did not come alone. 3 territorial marshals rode with him. Federal men answerable to the governor, not to local powers. They wore badges that meant something beyond the valley, carried authority that could not be bought or threatened away. The lead marshal was a man named James Cordell, 55, gray-bearded, with eyes that had seen every kind of lie and learned to spot truth in the wreckage. He dismounted in front of the burned barn, looked at Sheriff Bauer, at Catherine Vance, with her small gun at Tom and Anna, covered in soot and exhaustion. "Someone want to tell me what happened here?" Tom handed him the letter. "Read this first. Then we will explain everything." Cordell read in silence. His face remained neutral, but his jaw tightened with each line. When he finished, he folded the letter carefully and placed it in his coat pocket. "Where is Dr. Samuel Cross?" "Fled. Last night, when we confronted him, and Judge Harlan Cole. Still in town, probably planning his own escape." Cordell turned to his men. "Marshal Peters, take Sheriff Bauer into custody, suspicion of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Marshal Yates, find Judge Cole. Bring him in, gently if he cooperates, forcefully if he does not." Bauer started to protest, stopped when he saw Cordell's expression. "You can cooperate now," Cordell said quietly, "or you can hang later. Your choice, Sheriff, but the days of this valley protecting its own are over." They took Bauer away in handcuffs. The sight of it sent ripples through the watching crowd. Disbelief, relief, fear of what would come next. Cordell turned to Tom and Anna. "I am going after Cross. He has maybe 6 hours head start. The mountains are big, but I have tracked men through worse. You two have done enough. Go home. Rest. Let the law handle this now." Anna shook her head. "Dr. Cross killed my father. Slowly, over 2 years. I need to face him. Miss, I understand, but this is dangerous work. I know those mountains. My father surveyed them. I know the trails, the water sources, the places a man might hide. You need me." Tom stepped forward. "And I know Cross. Knew him for 20 years before I learned what he really was. I can anticipate him. We both can." Cordell studied them, saw determination that would not bend. "If you slow me down, I leave you behind." "Agreed." They rode within the hour. 5 horses moving fast through terrain that rose steadily toward the high peaks. Cordell and his remaining marshal, Tom, Anna, and Lucas Morrison, who refused to stay behind. The trail was not hard to follow at first. Cross had ridden in panic, leaving clear tracks, but as they climbed higher, the ground became rockier. Tracks faded. The marshal proved his worth, reading signs Tom would have missed. A disturbed stone, a broken branch. The faint impression of a horse's passing. They found Cross's horse at noon grazing near a stream. Empty saddle. No rider. Cordell dismounted, studied the ground. He is on foot now, probably trying to reach the old mining camps. Lots of abandoned tunnels, easy to hide. Or easy to get trapped, Anna said. They continued on foot, leading the horses. The altitude made breathing harder. The sun beat down without mercy, then disappeared behind clouds that promised rain. They found Cross 3 hours later. He was wedged in a narrow canyon back against the rock wall, holding a rifle. His face was sunburned, lips cracked. Fear had carved him into something wild and desperate. "Stay back," his voice cracked. "I will shoot." Cordell held up empty hands. "Dr. Cross, this does not have to end badly. Come in. Face trial. Tell your side." "My side? There is no side, only guilty or not guilty. And I am guilty. We all are." Tom stepped forward slowly. "Samuel, I have known you since I came to this valley. You delivered my wife when she had fever. You sat with me when she died. Was any of that real?" Cross's face twisted. "Real? What is real, Tom?" "I was a good doctor once. I saved lives. Then I learned that saving lives does not make you powerful. It makes you useful. And useful men serve powerful men. That is the truth nobody wants to admit." Anna's voice cut through. "You poisoned my father, a man who never harmed you." Owen was a threat. He found the dams, the diversions, the evidence. He was going to expose everything. We had worked 15 years to build the system. We could not let one idealistic engineer destroy it, so you killed him. We made it look natural, painless. He thought he was sick. He never knew. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Cordell spoke, voice hard. "Dr. Cross, lower the rifle. Come with us. Last chance." Cross laughed. The sound was broken glass and madness. "Come with you to hang. To spend my last days in a cell while people spit on me. No, I would rather die here. Clean. Quick." He turned the rifle toward himself. Tom lunged forward. "Samuel, do not—" The rifle fired. But Tom had reached him, knocked the barrel aside. The bullet struck rock, ricocheted, disappeared into the canyon. Cross collapsed. Not from injury, from defeat. All fight drained out of him like water from a broken dam. He wept. Great racking sobs that shook his whole frame. "We were supposed to be building something," he choked out. "A better valley. Efficient water use. Prosperity. We told ourselves it was for the greater good, but it was just greed, just power. And now good men are dead, and I am a murderer." Cordell pulled Cross to his feet, bound his hands. "You will have your day in court. You will tell everything. Names, dates, crimes, and maybe that earns you life in prison instead of a rope." They brought Cross down from the mountains as evening fell, the man who had diagnosed deaths now facing his own judgment. The trial took 3 weeks to organize. Territorial authorities descended on Sloan's Crossing like locusts on a field. They interviewed everyone, searched records, dug up files that had been buried for years. The land office in Santa Fe sent investigators. The governor appointed a special prosecutor. And slowly, piece by piece, the full scope of the conspiracy emerged. 15 years of theft, 23 ranches systematically drained of water, 8 deaths ruled accidental that were likely murder, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraudulent land sales. A web of corruption that touched judges, doctors, sheriffs, land office clerks, and respected businessmen. Judge Harlan Cole tried to run, made it as far as El Paso before federal marshals caught him. They brought him back in chains. Jacob Reed, the transport master, killed himself. Left a note confessing his role but naming no one else. A coward's exit that denied the victims the full truth. Dr. Samuel Cross, however, talked. He talked for 3 days straight, named names, described methods, detailed every crime he could remember. Whether from guilt or hope of leniency, he became the prosecution's key witness. And through it all, Tom and Anna waited. They returned to Hart's Hollow, worked the ranch, expanded the irrigation using Anna's designs, watched Whisper Creek flow strong and clear, bringing life back to land that had been dying. But the waiting had a wait. One evening, as they worked side by side, reinforcing a diversion channel, Tom spoke what they had both been thinking. After the trial, what happens to us? Anna's hands stilled on the shovel. What do you mean? I mean this fight brought us together. Common enemy, common cause. When that is gone, when justice is served and the conspirators are punished, what holds us here? Anna set down her shovel, looked at him directly. Do you want me to leave? No, God no, but I do not want you to stay out of obligation, or because the fight is not finished. I want you to stay because you choose to, because you want to. And if I do choose to stay, what then? I work here as hired help. We maintain this careful distance, always professional, never acknowledging what has grown between us. Tom met her eyes. What has grown between us? You tell me, Tom. You are the one who asked the question. He moved closer. They were alone in the fading light, the only sounds the water flowing, and the wind in the cottonwoods. I think, he said carefully, that I am terrified. Terrified of feeling anything for anyone again. Because when I cared about Eliza, my caring was not enough. I could not save her. Could not even see how much she was hurting until it was too late. I am not Eliza. I know. And that terrifies me more, because you are strong, independent. You do not need saving. Which means, if you stay, it is not because you need me. It is because you want me. And I do not know if I am worthy of being wanted. Anna reached out, took his hand. Her grip was firm, grounding. Tom, I have been called witch, saboteur, murderer. I have been exiled, threatened, nearly killed. And through all of it you stood beside me. Not because I was weak and needed protection, but because it was right. That is worthiness. That is the measure of a man. And if I fail you too, if I make the wrong choice again, then we fail together. And we get back up, together. That is what partnership means. Tom's other hand came up, cupped her face. Rough palm against smooth cheek. I do not know how to do this, how to let someone in again. Neither do I. My father was all I had. When he died, I built walls, told myself knowledge was enough, that work could replace connection. But it cannot, and I do not want it to anymore. They stood like that, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. Stay, Tom whispered. Not as hired help, not as business partner. Stay as whatever we can build together. A home? Yes. A future, if you will have it. Anna smiled. Small, real. The armor finally cracking to show the woman beneath. I will have it. I will have you. Broken pieces and all. He kissed her then, gentle, tentative, like a man learning a language he thought he had forgotten. She kissed him back. And in that moment, Whisper Creek seemed to flow stronger, as if the land itself approved. The trial was held in Santa Fe in the territorial courthouse, because no one trusted Sloan's Crossing to deliver impartial justice. Tom and Anna attended every day, sat in the gallery, watched as the prosecution built their case stone by stone, witness by witness, document by document. Catherine Vance testified about her husband's death, brought his letters, his measurements, his desperate attempts to report the corruption. Her voice never wavered, her dignity never cracked. She stood as a monument to grief transmuted into purpose. Barrett Sloan testified, still weak from his injuries, told how his father had confessed to the scheme on his deathbed, how he himself had found the ledgers and burned them, how shame had kept him silent until it almost killed him. The prosecutor asked if he regretted his silence. Every day, Barrett answered, and I will regret it every day for the rest of my life. But regret without action is just cowardice in disguise. So I am here, telling the truth, hoping it counts for something. Dr. Samuel Cross's testimony took 2 full days. He was methodical, clinical, described each murder, each poisoning, each accident that was not an accident, explained the medical techniques used to hide cause of death, named the people who had paid him, the people who had helped. When the prosecutor asked why he had done it, Cross paused for a long time. I convinced myself it was necessary, that the ends justified the means. That building a prosperous valley required hard choices, but the truth is simpler and uglier. I liked the power, liked being important, liked that powerful men needed me, and I was willing to kill to keep that feeling. The defense attorneys tried to discredit him, called him a liar seeking reduced sentence. But the documents supported his testimony. The exhumed bodies showed traces of arsenic, just as he claimed. The engineering reports Anna provided proved the dams were deliberately placed to steal water. The evidence was overwhelming. Judge Harlan Cole maintained his innocence to the end, claimed he knew nothing of murders, only boundary adjustments, said he was a victim too misled by Cyrus Sloan. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Dr. Samuel Cross received life in prison, his medical license permanently revoked. His testimony had saved him from hanging, but not from spending his remaining years behind bars. Judge Harlan Cole received 25 years, his legal credentials stripped, his name erased from every case he had overseen, his rulings subject to review. Jacob Reed's estate was seized, distributed to his victims. Cyrus Sloan, being dead, escaped earthly justice, but his name became synonymous with greed and betrayal. The town renamed itself, no longer Sloan's Crossing. Now it was Mankiller Springs, after the engineer who had died trying to expose the truth. But the verdict did not bring the satisfaction Tom expected. He sat in the courtroom as the judge pronounced sentence and felt only emptiness. Justice served, criminals punished, the system working as designed. Yet Owen Mankiller was still dead. Eliza was still dead. Harold Vance was still dead. All the stolen years, the suffering the families destroyed, none of that could be returned. Anna found him outside the courthouse, standing in the late afternoon sun, looking at nothing. "It is not enough, is it?" she said quietly. "No. It never is. Justice is not resurrection. It does not bring back the dead. It only stops more people from dying." Tom turned to her. "Then why did we fight so hard? Why go through all of this if it changes nothing? It changes everything. My father's name is cleared. Your water is returned. The system that killed them is broken. That is not nothing, Tom. That is the difference between a world where truth matters and a world where power is the only truth." She took his hand. "We cannot save the past, but we can build a different future. That is all we ever could do." Tom squeezed her hand, felt the truth in her words settle into his bones. "Then let us go home and build." 1 year later, Hart's Hollow looked transformed. Whisper Creek flowed through an expanded irrigation system that served not just Tom's ranch, but 5 neighboring properties. Anna had designed a network of channels, each carefully calculated to distribute water fairly while preserving the aquifer that fed them all. The ranch house had been repaired, new roof, fresh paint, a porch rebuilt to hold weight without sagging. And in the living room, in a place of honor, hung Owen Mankiller's old compass and surveying notes, framed and preserved. On a warm spring morning, wagons began arriving. Lucas and Ruth Morrison, with their 3 children, now grown tall and capable. Catherine Vance, dressed in colors other than black for the first time in years, bringing her 2 daughters. Barrett Sloan, his burns healed to thick scars he wore without shame, carrying tools and plans. And others, farmers who had lost land and won it back. Ranchers rebuilding after years of artificial drought. People whose names appeared in the trial transcripts as victims, now gathering as survivors. They came to dedicate a new structure, not a house, not a barn, a school, small but solid, built from local timber and stone. One large room with windows on all sides, desks waiting to be filled, books stacked and ready, and at the front a bronze plaque, the Owen Mankiller School of Water Engineering and Land Management. Established 1886, built by the community. Dedicated to truth, justice, and the belief that knowledge serves everyone. Anna stood before the building, hand in Tom's, and tried not to cry. Reverend Paul Ashford, who had found his voice after years of complicit silence, spoke the dedication. "We gather here not to celebrate victory, but to honor sacrifice. Owen Mankiller died seeking truth. Others died defending lies. This school stands as testament that truth, though costly, is worth the price." He looked at Anna. "Miss Mankiller, would you say a few words?" Anna stepped forward, looked at the faces watching her, saw acceptance where once there had been suspicion, saw respect where once there had been contempt. "My father believed that water belongs to everyone, that knowledge should not be hoarded, that an engineer's duty is to serve the land and the people, not the powerful and the greedy. I spent years angry that he died for those beliefs, angry that the world punished him for being good." She paused, gathered herself. But standing here seeing what we built together, I understand. He did not die for nothing. His death became a seed. And from that seed grew this, a place where the next generation can learn not just engineering, but ethics. Not just how to control water, but why we must share it. She looked at Tom, at Catherine, at Barrett. We cannot bring back the dead, but we can make their deaths mean something. We can choose to build instead of destroy, to share instead of hoard, to speak truth instead of comfortable lies. Catherine Vance stepped forward, holding a ribbon across the doorway. Then let us build. Together. Anna and Tom cut the ribbon together. The door opened. Sunlight flooded the empty classroom full of potential. Children ran inside exploring. Adults followed planning. The future beginning in that moment. Later, as evening fell and the last wagons departed, Tom and Anna sat on their porch. Whisper Creek sang its endless song. Stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky. "Your father would be proud," Tom said. "Our father would be proud. You are as much a part of this as I am." Tom pulled her closer. She fit against his side like she had always belonged there. "Do you ever regret it, staying fighting? All the pain it cost?" Anna considered. "I regret the necessity. I wish there had been another way, but I do not regret the choice." "Do you regret Eliza?" "I regret that I could not save her, but I no longer regret the choice I made that night. The children lived because I went. That matters. It does not erase the loss, but it matters. And now I choose you. Every day I choose this life we are building, this future." Anna turned, kissed him softly. "Then we are choosing the same thing." They sat in comfortable silence as full dark fell. Two people who had been broken separately learning to be whole together. Not through grand gestures, not through dramatic declarations, but through small daily choices, through shared work, through the slow, patient building of trust and home and future, like water carving stone, persistent, inevitable, transforming. 5 years later, a visitor to Mankiller Springs would find a thriving community. The school expanded to 2 buildings, water flowing to 15 ranches through Anna's carefully designed system. A new town hall where decisions were made, transparently documented, open to challenge. Barrett Sloan ran the engineering program teaching the next generation. Catherine Vance endowed scholarships for students who could not afford tuition. Lucas Morrison served on the Water Council, ensuring fair distribution. And at Hart's Hollow, a small girl of 4 played beside Whisper Creek. She had her mother's dark hair and her father's steady gray eyes. She was building a dam from stones and mud, engineering instinct already showing. Anna knelt beside her. "Remember, sweetheart, water needs to flow. Dams are for directing, not stopping." The girl nodded seriously, adjusted her stones. Tom watched from the porch, smile creasing his weathered face. He had gray in his beard now, lines around his eyes, but the haunted look was gone, replaced by something that looked like peace. Anna joined him, leaving their daughter to her work. "She is going to be brilliant," Tom said. "She is going to be kind. Brilliant is easy, kind takes work." Tom pulled Anna close, kissed the top of her head. "We did it. Built something real, something lasting." "We did, though I suspect the work is never truly done." "No, but that is all right. Good work should not end." They stood together watching their daughter play, watching the sun set over land that was healing, watching water flow the way it was meant to. In the distance, if you listened carefully, you could hear the sound of the school bell, children laughing, tools working, life continuing. The conspirators were gone, the corrupt system dismantled, the stolen water returned. But more than that, something new had grown from the ashes of the old. Community built on truth instead of lies, on shared resources instead of hoarded power, on the radical idea that everyone deserved access to the basics of life. It was not perfect. Disputes still arose, mistakes were made, but now there was a mechanism for addressing them, a belief that truth, however difficult, was worth pursuing. Anna looked at Tom, saw the man who had believed her when no one else would, who had stood beside her through trials and fire and fear. "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if I had never come here?" Tom considered. "Quieter, lonelier, probably shorter. I was dying inside when you arrived, just had not admitted it yet. And now I am living, actually living, not just surviving. That is your gift to me, our gift to each other. Yes. The sun dropped below the horizon. The sky turned purple, then deep blue, then black. Stars emerged like diamonds scattered on velvet. Their daughter came running up, mud-covered and happy. "Mama, Papa, look, the water flows around my dam, just like you said." Anna scooped her up. "That is because you listened to the water, heard what it was trying to tell you." "What does water tell you, Mama?" Anna looked at Tom, smiled. "That truth always finds its path, that lies are like dams built on sand. They hold for a while, but eventually water reclaims what belongs to it, and that the most important thing we can do is work with the flow instead of against it." The girl considered this with serious 4-year-old wisdom. "I like water. It is honest." Tom laughed. "Yes, little one, water is honest, and so should we be." They went inside together. A family, built not from blood alone, but from choices made daily, from truth honored, from love earned through shared struggle and shared triumph. Behind them, Whisper Creek continued its eternal journey, speaking truths to anyone who would listen, promising that what was buried would rise, that what was stolen would be returned, that justice, though slow, was as inevitable as water seeking the sea. The end.